What's going on, you guys? Welcome back. I didn't even know I had hit the live, but welcome back to another live stream. My name is Felicia for real, and if it's your first time here, welcome. Thanks for joining. I'm just playing, but please hit the like when y'all come in. I will gladly appreciate it. Make sure y'all can hear me loud enough. So I want to talk about when a malignant narcissist try to gain trust. They try to pick you to make sure that they can trust you. Because, when it comes to a malignant narcissist, even though they're narcissists, they're a little different from the rest. They have a side of them that it's very dangerous and you don't want to mess around with. I mean, that goes for any narcissist, but when it comes to malignant narcissists, they have an anger deep down inside of them. And if you really pay attention to when they talk, they will let you know exactly how they feel. They're not going to hold back their true feelings. They're not going to hold back. They're not going to cut the corners and sugarcoat the way they feel about anything and anyone. So, like the saying goes, when a person show you who they are the first time, believe them. Because you just may experience that with someone and not knowing you're dealing with a malignant narcissist. But when they try to gain your trust, they will do all type of things. First, they will try to establish some type of connection through communication, of course. And that may start off by even a small suggestion, just trying to make small talk, giving you a bit of advice. A lot of times the malignant narcissists, even though narcissists are controlling, they're very unhinged. It's like they get so they get so angry when they can't have their way as far as controlling someone. They will, it normally result in insults. They may call you names, you know, and those name calling hurt just as much as any physical attack because it's still an attack. It's an attack on your character, on who you are and your personality. When that doesn't fit you, of course you're going to have a problem with that and they know it. So now it's like they're picking a fight with you because they can't have their way with you because you didn't give them this reaction they wanted right away. So when they try to gain supply in the beginning stages of getting to know you, that's kind of the tactic they use, pretending to give you some type of advice or maybe even trying to give you a hand with something. And when they're doing that, they may start to, hold a conversation by not telling you so much about them. Because a lot of times narcissists, they don't never talk about them. That's how it kind of fly over our head because we don't really get the backstory to this person. We meet them where they are and they get to know everything about us way too soon, which is how they pretty much just copy us and pretend that we have so much in common. And malignant narcissists, they do the same thing. I have noticed how they play that same game of finding out all they can about you and then turning around and saying, well, yeah, that's me too. But you see, the thing about me is I couldn't trust people. I have trust issues. They will tell you they have trust issues. People let them down. But what they don't tell you is the whole story. So you have to get it out of them. And you can't let them know that, yeah, you can trust me. Well, I'm going to be your friend. You don't need to let anybody know that. especially when you just met them, because you don't owe them that. It takes time getting to know someone, and that's not something that they're willing to listen to. They become so desperate for attention, for new supply. They not really trying to hear that. They just want to know that, you're going to listen to them and just pretty much do as they do. Trust their word. But before that happens, they got to make sure they trust you. And they may say things like, give you bits and pieces of a past relationship or why it ended with the last supply. Of course, they're not going to tell you everything. They're just going to tell you enough to make you feel sorry for them. They're going to leave out a whole lot. It's going to be so many gaps in the story, so many missing pieces that you're going to be thinking like, okay, so how can I feel this part in? So what happened with that? And like I said, they get so angry, they may say things like, well, if you just let me tell it, because I get frustrated. It's like they always describe how frustrated they are. They always go into being frustrated or angry just by you asking them a simple question. And they know it's because the truth will reveal itself. And they're not gonna be able to pull that over you too fast, for too much longer. When they see that they found someone who's not as, you know, what do you call it? Someone who they can't just tell anything to, and they found someone who likes to find out the facts, before they say too much. They don't like that because they're already impatient. That makes them even more impatient. They don't have very narcissists, period, don't have very much patience. That's why they like to rush in the beginning. So when they're telling you this story, they just need to get your sympathy. They need to know you care. And don't be a person who kind of familiar with a little bit of their life story and may know some of their friends or someone from the past. They're not going to want you to deal with those people if you're associating with them. They're going to feel like they can control you and stop you from dealing with the person. They're going to start to tell you personal things about someone who they used to deal with in a way to make that person look bad. But then in the same breath, they'll turn around and say, but I'm not the bone carrier. I don't like drama. I don't like mess and confusion. I just kind of live a private life. I stay to myself. I don't say much. You a lie. That's all you've been doing since we met. They talk a good game, but that's not how they're really living. And it's crazy that they can tell you these things to your face, but you see them doing the total opposite. See, the narcissist game is to make sure that they can get you to believe them. And once they see that they got somebody who's gonna fall for it, then that's where the trust comes in. That they feel like they could trust you. But malignant narcissists, they take their time filling you out. That's the difference between them, in my opinion, based off my experience with a malignant narcissist. They take their time trying to get to know you for a particular reason. It's because underneath the surface, I'm telling y'all, what lies underneath is anger and rage. And it's something that you don't want to play with. It's not something you want to spend time on trying to get to know. They're not worth it. Because the first time they just show you a glimpse, just a a bit of who they are when it comes to, this unsettling behavior, you might want to go the other way. Don't stick around longer than you need to. Even if they came in your life, because you probably met someone and not knowing who they are. Of course, we don't know who people are when we first meet them. We all getting to know someone. But I'm telling y'all, when it comes to the malignant narcissist, the thing that will stand out the most about their personality is anger. It's their, you know, inability to kind of hold back their true feelings when they are disappointed or let down. And those disappointments and letdowns, it could be from anything. It can range from anything that doesn't have nothing to do with, the way they try to put it. But that's how they gotta pitch it to you, so that you can be like, that the person who just feels sorry for them, that person who shows a lot of empathy towards their situation. And they may say things like, well, so just tell me how you think I should handle it. And it's like they only told you a small portion of the story. So be careful when you're giving someone advice, because if it sounds kind of sketchy, like they left a lot out, they probably did. And a way to tell that is how frustrating they get. I'm telling you. First comes the frustration before the anger, and then comes the rage. When they're frustrated, they're rushing you to give them the answer they need. What they need to hear from you is you did the right thing. You're not in the wrong. You're a good person. I understand why you react that way. And you don't owe them that. You don't owe that to anyone, actually, whether they're a narcissist or not. Because a real friend or confidant, or even anyone who's going to offer up some advice to any person who comes to them, always keep it real with them. Be honest. Let them know what's right and what's wrong. And it shouldn't matter how it makes them feel. Well, a malignant narcissist, just beware of the response and the reaction. Because they just might be on the verge of crashing out because you're not giving them the answer they want. I'm telling you what they want to hear. They will say things to you like, you know, so why do I feel so bad? Translation. Why do I feel like I've done something wrong, even though I don't want to admit to it, which is dodging accountability. That's what they mean by that when they say, "But why do I feel bad?" Now, mind you, they're gonna tell you a story, but when it comes to how that story makes them feel, the last thing they should be asking you is, "Why do I feel bad?" But I shouldn't be feeling bad, huh? Notice that they'll say stuff like that to get you to be like, "No." Don't enable them. That's enabling. Don't enable them to, you know, just disregard and dismiss everything they've done. Don't do that, because you're helping them to stay this way. I mean, even though it takes a person to admit that they need to change in order for them to even start that process, but they're not going to admit to that, or they wouldn't even be trying to play you. First, they pretend that they're coming to you for advice because they need to get something off their chest, something's been bothering them, but they're not going to tell you the full story. And you spend all that time listening and being a shoulder for them to cry on, and then they venting it all out to you just for them to tell you half truths and enough to make them look good. And so you're like, okay, well, why would you feel bad if you did all those things you claim you did? That's how you answer that. And that's how you kind of catch them in a lie. And again, frustration, anger, rage. The next thing they do is start to show anger because now you're questioning their ability to keep it real. Well, why are you feeling bad if you claim that you did such and such and you went all out the way and bent over backwards for someone? Why would you feel bad? You shouldn't worry about, those things if you did what you were supposed to do. And then they may say, well, what are you trying to say? Like, I did something wrong. It's like, where'd that come from? That's where that anger starts to come in at. Because now they're thinking you checking them and you're not even saying that. You just trying to, you're just trying to figure it out. Like, okay, so what are you admitting that you're the problem? Or, and it's just like they'll try to take you in circles and confuse you. Because what they want you to do is just say, don't worry about that stuff. Don't worry about it. We all make mistakes, but that's beyond a mistake. Certain things you do, it's not a mistake. At this point, we got to stop saying a mistake. We got to stop saying, I didn't know any better. I was young and I'm still growing. Narcissists love to use that as an excuse. They love to make excuses for their behavior by saying this. I was young. You're not young. You're a middle-aged adult. And you know better. But that's easy for you to use. So you're going to stand on it because that will get people to sympathize with you and be a bit more understanding and excuse your behavior. And everybody not going to come at you like that. Some people going to be straight up with you and tell you the realness, whether it hurts your feelings or not. But it's not going to hurt their feelings. It's just going to make them angry because they don't want to hear that. They want to hear, well, none of us are perfect. We all make mistakes. You know, well, we're still growing. Everybody, like, at some point, haven't you grown enough to know better? Come on now. Because everybody's not going to give you that response. So you can't expect that out of everyone. But again, when they're trying to gain trust, this is what they need to hear from you. So when it gets to the point to where you're like, okay, well, well, we talked it out. You got everything off your chest. That's it. And they might feel like, okay, well, they're not really fulfilled in that moment. They didn't get enough off for you to show that they can trust you. That's where they get even more angrier. They may start to talk about, well, see, let me tell you. And so this is when they're going to get down to the nitty gritty. They're going to start to finally, unpeel what's really going on underneath the surface. And they may start to talk about things that happened in the past. All the stuff that they left out. Now they're going to finally get to it. And they hesitated to do this because they know it's going to make you feel like, okay, you know, like, yeah, I see why that person got away from it. See, you were leaving all this out intentionally so that I could just be on your side, because that's what they do. And they may say things like, see, I know that I have anger issues. And it's like, bam, there it is. See, I got anger issues. And what happened is, and this and that happened, and then things escalated, and then she said or he said, and I just got so mad, and then I just started just tearing things apart, and I just ripped this up, and then I just did, and all this and that, and it's like, all you hear now is rage. And you're just trying to picture, the moments and the events that all this stuff took place that they're telling you. All you could do is just picture in your mind this person that, you know, needs some advice on if they did the right thing. Now, at first, I was like, okay, well, if you say that, because the narcissists, they going to come out with the story telling it kind of backwards, or they meet you in the middle to where it really escalated, but then they just not going to, it's just never going to it's not going to ever come together. It's not going to make sense. They don't want it to make sense. That's where the confusion come in at, because the narcissist, the enemy wants to confuse you. They have to confuse you. They need to know first that I could trust you. Just like in the movie Sinners, when you see the vampires, just like a demon, they need permission to come in your life. They can't just show up and wreak havoc. No, you have to give them permission. You have to invite them in. Even when a narcissist show up, you have to be willing to say, okay, I'll listen. But that doesn't always mean, okay, well, you got a friend in me. No, you don't. What they're looking for is a therapy session. Because a narcissist, nothing suits them better than to be able to sit in front of someone who's just going to soak it all in and just give them a pat on the back and tell them it's going to be okay. You're okay. You did the right thing. Like, no, you need someone who's going to be honest with you, upfront and honest, and tell you when you're wrong. And that's what they're not looking for. And they already know they're wrong. They already know what they've done is a little bit overboard or way overboard. And they know ain't no going back. Hell, they probably did so much dirt, they don't even remember all the wrong they done to someone. People have to remind them why they decided to cut them off for good. Sometimes narcissists have such a dark past, they can't even keep up. They don't know why the person don't want to deal with them no more. And it's sad, but it's the truth. It's like that. And so that's how it is when you're dealing with a narcissist, especially a malignant one who is trying to gain your trust. They tell the story from the middle. And then once you think, okay, well, that's it. All right, then, well, I don't understand why you're bothering. And then they want to start from the beginning. Oh, okay. Well, why didn't you start from me? You know you were wrong from the jump. That's the type of mind games they play, because that's how they all operate. All of them operate that way, because they just need a sucker. Like they say, you see a sucker, lick it, or something like that. I don't know. I hate to quote things and I have it wrong and they be sounding crazy. But yeah, they found someone who they can confide in and just like gain trust. But then the moment that you start to question them, they gonna look at you like, I thought I could trust you. Well, you could trust me to be honest. And see, that's the part that you wanted me to leave out. Honesty. But that's not who I am. And because you didn't really get the chance to get to know me, the first thing a narcissist they notice about you is your personality when it comes to how kind you are. You're a nice person. They love to overuse those words because that's what they need to get out of you. And if they keep telling you you're this type of person, they need you to stay that way. This kind of make you stay that way for them. I don't know. I'm trying to explain it in a way to where they know how to mess with your mind and keep you being a certain way that serves them. Even when they're wrong, they still need that nice you that they met in the beginning. That's why they throw that in your face a lot. You know, when you when you react in anger, what is that called? Reactive aggression or something with a narcissist? And then they'll sit back like, what happened to my sweet little nice? I've heard that so many times. Y'all just don't know how many times I have heard that in my personal life. Once they get you to the point where you just completely flash out on them. And you don't even want to take it there. But pressure bust pipes at some point, you gonna have enough. You gonna be completely fed up. And you just gonna let it all out on them. And that's normal. That's a normal human reaction. But what they wanna do is make you feel like that's not normal. You shouldn't act that way. Like, why are you angry? What's wrong? What happened to that nice little sweet? Like, what? You really expect to get that out of me after all this you just dumped on me and everything you've been doing? And I just been letting it go, letting it slide. And then when you finally, you push those buttons a little bit too much, you cause a reaction that you weren't expecting. And now I'm the problem. Those are the type of mind games they play. So they're always looking for someone they can trust to accept them as is. No progress needed. You don't want to be someone's friend to where you can never tell them when they're wrong. And they not even looking for that type of friend anyway. So it's settled. You know, you turn away from that and stay far away from it. And let them live with who they are until they finally just break and decide, and realize that they have just become the worst person by just pretty much dismissing everything that they have done. They become this person that no one ever want to deal with. They have to sit with themselves and realize that. But then even then, that's not even your problem. It's still not your problem. Don't ever allow them to make you feel guilty because you don't want to be there anymore. You don't owe them anything. They wanted to trust you for all the wrong reasons. And that's not keeping it real. And you can't be someone who stand on the truth, but when it comes to certain individuals, you kind of let it slide because you're afraid of, the backlash or how angry they might get or what they might do. Because I'm telling y'all, I have heard some malignant narcissists tell some horror stories and things that they've done and then claim, I'm not proud of that. And that's not even my heart. Well, maybe your heart is in the wrong place. Maybe your heart is just different from everyone else's. Maybe your heart is cold and bitter. Maybe your heart is vengeful. Because anyone with real love in their heart, they're not going to deliberately hurt someone as a form of revenge because they lost control. Like, you just can't use that as an excuse to get away with that type of behavior. Because a person could let you down not knowing that they're letting you down. But because that's your way of thinking, because you're so used to getting your way all the time, you don't know what losing control looks like. And you don't know what it feels like until you don't have it anymore. And then that makes you angry. And it makes you lash out and do things that you just can't come back from. Stuff that you just can't fix. There's no easy and quick fix for it. And what they don't realize is that it is possible to lose someone forever. based off sometimes something that you can just say to them, you know. But the malignant narcissists, they think that people should just look at them as, okay, well, I understand you're the type that, you expect so much out of me, and when I don't give you that, when I don't, you know, meet you at those expectations, meet those expectations for you, then you might do this, this, and that. But that's not normal. That's not something that a person should accept and feel like, okay, well, I understand. It's not understandable. And you shouldn't ever have to deal with that, just to please that person. Because it always comes back down to one thing: control. And they may not want to admit it, but that's what it is. So again, when that person show you who they are, believe them. Don't turn a blind eye thinking, well, I'm not going to touch that. I don't want to open a can of worms. You going to do it eventually. Because it's going to come a point to where no matter what you do, it's never going to be enough for that person. They're going to always still expect more out of you. They're going to want you to go above and beyond for them until you have nothing else left to give. And then that's when you're going to meet that side of them that they've been warning you about. Because trust and believe, they warn you. They warn you before the destruction. They do give off warnings. They will let you know, because that's just this side of them that they think it makes them look good to brag and boast about being a badass. You're not afraid of anyone, and what you're known for. Like, who cares? That does not make you look good, though. And a person can have, you can be as bold as ever and have a lot of courage, then able to stand up for yourself when you really need to, and have them necessary fights that you need to have. Sometimes you gotta fight it out, but in defense of for what's right for yourself, for your peace. But when it comes to someone who just feel as though certain things have to result in violence because you made me mad, no, that's not normal. That's not a normal human reaction. That's not something that you should even want to subject yourself to. Just to say, oh, I understand. Nah, because that's not cool. And at that point, they really need to go get their head checked. Because something ain't right. you know, Something ain't mixing. We got a few lumps up in there that's not coming out. We got to smooth this out, but it's taking too long. So what's really going on? What's in there? We got to dig some things out. They leaving a whole lot out that they don't want you to know about. You know. But that's all I pretty much want to talk about in this video. Have any comments? So again, thank y'all for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and leave your thoughts down below on this content or any other video. Please leave y'all thoughts in the comment section. And again, thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for your support. And I will talk to you in the next one.